hiding my drink. Okay, so Facebook Live. I have a bunch of things to cover. Rebuilding shocks. MIP. Ultimate Racing Pistons. Soldering iron. How to be a champion, part 2. But I saw David Ronefalk had a Facebook Live today. And I'm not going to start before we have more people watching than he had. So 118, I think that would be more than he had. Liam said 118. So let's go with that. We need 118 people and then we can start. Okay? Oh, and we're going to talk about what I think the future trends in car design will be. Yeah. So you see what I'm wearing here? You know why I'm wearing this shirt? Because next year, believe it or not, it will be a decade of JQ Racing. Not really JQ Racing actually, because you see, it used to be JQ Products, but it's 10 years. Next year is a 10-year anniversary. So we have some retro shirts. Retro shirts on sale. Go to jqracing.com if you're in Europe. eu.jqracing.com. We got shirts there. Euro RC will also have the shirts on sale soon. And they're super cheap. We're selling them for super cheap. Let's get a retro vibe going here. Euro RC, they sell worldwide also, so that's not a problem. But my own shop, only in Europe. How much is the fish with Puntigamer? You know what? Still there, it's still there. Bex today. Okay, we're at 78, so we need 118 people. So you better start asking your mom to watch, you know, spam the people we can't name by name or nickname, you know, spam them. When are you going to get in for the RCGP, asked Barry Baker. I think the 2nd of October. Hey, actually, Barry, you should sign up. Saxton is going, the Gun is going. We need Barry Baker at RCGP. JB Steve, should I add him on camera? He says he's naked. Neo, what's up? 89, we need to do better than this. I haven't done anything with the Durango cars, but I will. Don't worry. No, it's just it's the same body, not the same car. No Asahi beer. Okay, 98. We're getting close. We're getting close. So if anyone has any questions, ask them now, because this is basically the Q&A. We do the Q&A until we beat Ronefalk numbers. Barry Baker will be away. Juha, sun piti tulla hakee LRP-kamaa. Jumalauta. No questions? No one has any questions? Do we answer all the questions on the podcast or what? JQ rear springs on a very rough track and they worked. That's right. Yeah, I'm going to talk about the bypass pistons. We have to reach 118 people watching before I start. Until then, it's Q&A. Just ask me questions, I'll answer. Why didn't I go to the electric 8 scale Euros? Really? Because it's electric 8 scale, that's why. I only race electric 8 scale when it's class to get more track time. So when I need more track time at DNC or somewhere like PMB or something, I race e-buggy. On C and D, what is the effect all the way narrow compared to all the way out? C and D blocks, well, we can't do that change on the JQ car because I think it's not a good way to set the car up, really. It changes too many things. You have to design the car with one pivot width, in my opinion, to get the best performance. But on a car that you can adjust that, so you move the arm in or out on the rear, moving it in will make the suspension a bit softer, or the car will roll easier, it will have more grip. You have more corner speed if you move it out. It maintains corner speed easier. That sort of thing. I wouldn't really, like, on our cars we can't move it in or out, just up or down. 17 mil shocks. Honestly, I haven't tried now recently. Everyone sort of settled on 16. It became a bit of an industry standard, so went with that. E-buggy is released. Black Edition e-buggy is released now. I'm not going to the 10th Worlds. We need 10 more people. 10 more girlfriends, family members. Thought you would want to run Thunder Rally Drive for RCGP. The problem is the control tire issue, and the track gets so abrasive when it's run dry. It wears out tires a lot, so it's better to run it watered. I don't know. I don't know when I'll run the MP10. Maybe in America. By the way, so Cody King is out of team manager duties. So that didn't last too long. We were all wrong. We were betting how long it would last. I think Jeff Keaton said December. I gave it until next year. So we were way off. Lasted a month. Why never use inside hole on arms for shocks? It just doesn't give the car enough support. So it kind of, when you push it, you can set the suspension good, but then when you kind of drive aggressively or push the car, it will squat or dive too much. So it seems to be better when it's a bit further out, the shock. The 7-hole pistons, they just seem to work the best. I've tried all kinds of hole combinations, and on the car, the Black Edition, the 7-hole pistons are just right. Better than 6, better than 8. In Italy, they have C2 pistons. Okay, we made it, 122. Boom, over 118, so we can start. I'll just check these last questions. How many RCGP races will be in 2020? We don't know how many yet. We need to finish out the season and then we see that plan for next year. Oh yeah, I forgot to weigh those side guards. Yeah, I've seen the VRP pistons. Aren't those the ones that X-Ray copied then also with the flap thing? Okay, so we made it. So we have to start. What do I start with now? What do we talk about first? So we have the rebuilding the shock, talking about shock setup, talking about MIP pistons. Well, Chicky, ask your question again. Future design trends, how to be a champion part 2. Rebuilding shock, MIP, piston. What do we start? MIP. Okay, in the deep end. What's Chicky's question? Here, you can see my laundry is drying here in the back. Awesome. I'm gonna look for something for you. Okay. I didn't know anyone kept so many B and C main trophies. Okay, I'm just gonna get a trophy, a random one. Here we go, just a random trophy. This is special for Cheeky. Let's see what it says. GP EFRA, so an European GP in Italy, 2007 pole position. See that shit? Back when I was fast, on the pace. Sorry. Oh, I'll show you one more. This one's cool, you know why? Korean champion. South Korean champion in 2011. That was fun. Anyway, okay, MIP. So MIP made these pistons. The Bypass 1, was that what they were called? So they have these shims, different color shims. You can stack them, you can just put one shim on them. And basically, some people who my lawyers say I can't name by name or nickname, say that these are the best things since sliced bread. Maybe even since before sliced bread. But that these are just great. You need to run these. Now, first of all, this idea of using valves or flaps or something on the piston to close holes and open holes, you can do it either way. You can have it on top of the piston or below the piston. And the way that MIPs are made is, or at least how they promote them, is put the shim on the piston. So you have a shock shaft and a piston, the shim is there under the nut and it covers some holes. So compression, the flap is covering, the shim is covering holes. So on the stock ones, 8 holes are open. Then on rebound, there are holes under that flap. So the oil pushes through the holes and opens up the flap and flows through more holes than just the 8 holes. So the rebound is faster. So that's the point. So you have one compression damping and then a lighter, faster rebound damping. Now the thinking behind that is that with the faster rebound, the wheel will follow the ground more. So imagine, I was gonna get a car, but I don't have any wheels on. Let's use the Rockstar Husky to demonstrate. So the idea is, let's say you're driving your car and you hit a bump and your suspension compresses. With a faster rebound on the other side of the bump, instead of this happening, you hit the bump, then the wheel is traveling in the air, then eventually it hits the ground. You hit the bump, the suspension compresses, and then the shock rebounds faster, so that wheel will follow the ground more. The tire will be on the ground more. That's the idea. Oops. So anyway, what's so special about this? I said this isn't a new thing. No, it's not. You know why? Because back in the day of floppy disks, you see this? This is the disk of a floppy disk for a PC. Like before CDs, you know? So back in the floppy disk days, the floppy disk material was pretty good for this. You see this? Boom! I've been running flaps. Yeah, see? Hiding some information from you guys. So anyway, here's the deal. I actually have it on the underside of the piston. Now why would I want to do that? MIP was saying put it on top and just run it everywhere. Well, here's the deal. the way suspension works is, our suspension is super basic. We just have these pistons, basic pistons with basic holes. Damping is the same in both directions. We have some caps that we use emulsion, so there's no bladder here. You mix oil and air, so it's a mixture of oil and air in the shock. Or we put a bladder in here, and the oil and the air is separate. I'll explain more about that when I rebuild the shock. Then we also have some different shapes of pistons. So this piston, you can see it's flat on top and then it's conical on the underside. And also we have, you know, this piston, you can see that the holes actually are angled. So instead of straight holes, they're angled like this. Now all these things I just explained are very basic. And what I mean by basic is that you can find one setting and it will work everywhere. So you can run emulsion or bladder. You can run a flat piston with normal holes, or you can run a conical piston with angled holes. And you can make a sort of basic setup that's going to work on every track. Loose, high bite, bumpy, smooth, high speed, low speed, any kind of track. You can make these shocks work because it's a very basic system. So a Stone Age system. Okay. You guys with me so far? Is that the best? Is that the vest you use to play the violin? What vest? That's a pillowcase. For fuck's sake. Try and focus. Okay. So why did I just explain this? I explained this because the moment you start making these more complicated, and by more complicated I mean changing the compression versus rebound, so using flaps or these MIP valves, you start going into areas where you are, dare I say, optimizing the performance for a certain condition. And what I mean by that is, when you run these MIPs, I don't believe for a second that they will be better than stock pistons, stock shocks in all conditions. That's maybe what some people want to tell you, but it's just, unfortunately, it's not true. Stock basic suspension, it's good everywhere, right? But it's not optimized for anything. This sort of system, when I tried the MIP way, so I'll tell you the setup I ran. They didn't actually make specifically ones for the JQ buggy, but I'll show you also. I blocked a hole with the soldering iron. They sent me 8-hole pistons, so I blocked a hole with this to make them 7-hole pistons. And I made seven 1.3s for the front, 7 1.4s for the back. Then I ran the blue shim in the front and the green shim, which is a thinner one, in the back. That's what they recommended. Actually, I had the instructions somewhere. Where did I put them? I don't know, I lost them. There was this picture of the different valves. Well, there's a smaller picture here. There we go. Fast, medium, slow, neutral, gap shim. So I put the blue in the front, which is medium, green in the rear, which is fast. That's what they said I should run. And okay, so what did I notice? I immediately noticed a change in the car. I just exited pit lane, accelerated to the first jump, and I noticed the car was different. And what I noticed was, I had more low speed grip. I had more forward bite. When I accelerated out to corners, the car had more forward bite. When I hit the jump, the car would jump more. It would, what's the word I'm looking for? There's a word for that. I can't think of the word. Anyway, it jumped more, and it was better in low speed bumps. So in slow sections, the car it just went over the bumps much better. Also, what I noticed was, you know how you have a feeling of the car being in the track or on the track. There's a saying, like when it's in the track, you feel like you can do no wrong. It doesn't want to flip over. It's like sucked to the ground. And then it's on the track. It's kind of, it doesn't feel as connected to the track. More lift, popped, yeah, something like that. So with the MIP Pistons, it felt more on the track than in the track. And actually afterwards I thought maybe I should have tried lower ride height. I just ran the same ride height. Then the car was also more responsive. It did everything a bit faster, so I had to calm down my driving a bit. I could sort of slow down my driving and the car was faster and responsive. So it was better in the slow speed sections because I had more grip, and also any bumps on the track, it just went over them better. So what was the problem? Well, the problem was then the high speed sections, the car wasn't as stable anymore. So on our track, we have this section where we do a step up double and then accelerate fast on a back straight, a bumpy straight, and then the track curves to the left and you have to brake and then drop down. And that fast section, the car actually wasn't as stable. Like it wasn't as stuck to the ground. I had to be more careful there. And that's really the conclusion. So I put these MIP Bypass Pistons on my car. I immediately felt more forward bite, more pop off the jumps, better low speed, but a bit unstable at high speed. So it was a trade-off. Then, what I had been running before was these Ultimate Racing pistons. So conical pistons with the angled holes. This is kind of what I've been running now recently here. On the front, I had them this way, so flat up, conical side down. The idea is that the flat side is like a harder damping, and the conical side is softer, less damping. So similar idea to the flap, just not as a drastic difference. So when you use it like this, it's sort of similar to similar idea to the MIP piston. So compression is harder, rebound is softer. But it's a way smaller difference with this than with the flap. So I had it this way in the front, but on the rear, I had it the other way around. So actually I was slowing down rebound on the rear. And the reason for that was that I wanted the rear to not pop up on bumps. So let's say on those fast sections, I wanted the rear to stay planted. I wanted to, when I attack in that back section and I slow down into the corner, I didn't want the rear to come up. I just wanted the car to stay flat and low. And it helps doing that. So it's a bit like motocross. On a dirt bike, you slow down the rebound, so when you hit braking bumps, the rear doesn't want to pop up like that. It's a similar effect on these cars. Also, the second reason is when you run the conical piston upside down, so the flat side is down and the cone side is up, or on an MIP piston, you would put the valve on the underside of the piston, like this flap here that I used. That slows down rebound, and that will make the car carry a lot more corner speed. So on a flat track, let's say you're on a high grip flat track, I think a setup like this will make the car faster. So the harder rebound will make the car carry more corner speed. You have a chicane, you will make it faster in the chicane. And I didn't really do this on this track for corner speed. I just wanted it to be stable at high speed and when I hit high speed bumps. And it helped for that. So what I'm trying to say is, yes, these were good. They were good. But at the end of the day, I did the same lap times and had the same 5-minute result with normal pistons that I normally would run, just flat. Where are the holes? You can't see. There we go. Normal, flat, 7-hole pistons. The conical Ultimate Racing pistons with angled holes. And the MIP ones. Same lap times, same result. The feeling was just different. For me on that track, I was the most comfortable when I was running the conical piston and the rear was the wrong way around. So when I go back, I want to try the MIPs also the wrong way around. But I'm afraid that probably the difference is going to be too big. It's too drastic. So maybe these valves only work when they are on top. I don't know. Okay, so why don't I run this setup everywhere? Why don't I run the conical piston flat side down on the rear on every track? Well, the problem is that it's much worse in bumps, like slow speed bumps, medium speed bumps, big bumps. It's not as good. It doesn't, you can really tell a difference. Like it just doesn't go over them as smoothly, especially if you have some bumps in a row. Maybe it goes over the first one, then it doesn't have the time to kind of rebound and soak the bump up again. So it starts getting bouncy on the rear. But this wasn't a problem for me on this track. So I really wanted to focus on the high speed sections, and that's where this worked better. Also another thing, it jumps less this way. And that's good because you can hit the jump a lot faster and it doesn't pop as much. So you can carry more speed over bumps and not jump as high. So the point is that these are good, but it depends on the situation, it depends on the track, it depends on the conditions, and it's not something that you can just put in and it will be better everywhere. It won't. I would say that the way that MIP bypass system works and the way they have it on top of the piston, it will work well on loose tracks, bumpy tracks, small tight tracks, like low speed tracks. Like the best possible track for this would be a low speed, slippery, bumpy track, like many of the American tracks, like Thunder Alley when it's watered, for example. That's a good track for these pistons, you know, because it's lower speed, it gets rough, it has a lot of tight corners, low speed sections. It has a lot of sections where you kind of do a hairpin and then you have to accelerate to a jump, you know. So those kind of situations, this is good because you have grip at low speed, you have stability at low speed, you have more pop-off jumps. So that's really good. But then if you go to a European style track, smooth, high bite, really fast, this is gonna make the car unstable at high speed and a bit more nervous to drive, and you don't want that. So that's why I say that normal flat pistons are always good. They are gonna be good at Thunder Alley. They're also gonna be good in Europe on a high grip, high speed track. So it really depends on the conditions. So on that European track, smooth, high bite, probably this piston flat side down will be better. And I haven't really spoken about the front, only the rear for this piston because I didn't try it. So I don't want to lie to you, you know. The shocks, it's just a never-ending story, you know. You can test shocks your whole life and you won't know everything, understand everything, or have tested every combination. So I just explained the combinations I tried and that's what I found. Well, Astro, if it's high bite Astro, I don't know. Your safest bet will be the flat piston. That will always work. And then you should try it for yourself. You should try the MIPs. You should try conical pistons upside down. You should try all those things. This piston I made, the thing is that this is an 8-hole piston, but I blocked 1 hole. So the effect of this flap, this valve, will be much smaller than on the MIP. Because the MIPs, I don't know. I had some extra ones there. I think there were 6 holes that they covered. There were a lot of holes, so the difference between the damping is big. When you only cover 1 hole, the difference will be smaller. So that's also another thing. You can also not just tune like the different valves they have here, but also how many holes they cover. And actually, I was running valves back in 2005, 2006, like 2006 Worlds, I was running valves. So there. Okay, so, oh yeah, the internal spring shocks, that's something I still want to try too. I think the internal spring shocks are also supposed to be good on higher grip, like high grip smooth track for corner speed sort of thing. I still want to try those. I think it's a similar, like the point is to be similar to the harder rebound. Okay, so yeah, it depends on the Astro, I guess. So now I could, does the flap below the piston after the landing any? What do you mean? Yeah, Seismic makes internal springs. We ran valves made from spring steel shim stock back in the late 90s. Yeah, see, it's an old thing. Okay, rebuild shocks. Rebuilding time. I'm going to show you how to block holes on these pistons too. So, is that good? Any more questions about the MIPs? Okay, how are we going to do this? Look at this mess. Look at this mess. Can you see what's happening here? Future design trends. I'm going to talk about future design trends of 8-scale buggies. This is my opinion. I'm looking into the future here. X-ray system. The X-ray system is the same as VRP, the game changes. Is that the name? Yeah, I think it's the same point as MIP. I think the MIP solution is more pro. When are the bleeder caps coming? Yeah, look at that. Bleeder cap, vented shock cap with screw. Actually, you know what? I don't want to. This one with the gold ride height nuts has the MIP pistons in them. They're good to go. Wrong shock. I'm gonna do this one. Yeah, the vented caps are out now. JQB 341A. You like how I know all the part numbers by heart? Keenan, what's going on? Yeah, Björn is saying that this is the best soldering iron ever. It is. Okay, so These are the Black Edition e-buggy shocks. Yeah, these shocks are the same on all cars. Black Edition, Grey Edition, Black Edition, Nitro Buggy. 40 plus at RCGP is going to be epic, yeah. We got Greg Degani and Richard Saxton. Hopefully John Hazelwood too. Hazelnuts would be good to add there. More Impressed finally made them, yeah. Okay, so emptied the oil out. I can see that the bushings are a bit worn out. I can feel that it's not as free as I want it to be. The O-rings we use, they swell a bit after some time. So I can feel some stiction here, some friction and stiction. So I'm gonna switch these out. This shock tool is good. I think someone gave this to me. Vink molder too. Trusty 7-hole pistons. Stiction. It's a word. It sticks and then goes. A bit like this cap. Of course, I must have run an important race with these because I have thread locked the cap on so hard. I literally can't get the cap off. Hilarious. These must have been like my world shocks or something. Don't do this at home. Let's see if I can get this off, or if we have to go to plan B. Oh yeah. Yeah, man. So gypsy. Some people say you aren't supposed to thread lock those, but hey, anything can happen when you're racing. Okay, so I'm gonna switch out these. Bushings and O-rings. Me and threadlock, yeah. Janky, just like everything JQ. Take a hammer. Okay, so after we rebuilt this shock, I'm going to talk about future trends in car design, and then how to be a champ, part 2. Okay, so O-ring, bushing, O-ring. I don't use any grease or anything. I don't know. I don't bother with the lube. Just throw them in there. Bushing in here. Kind of clicks in there, make sure it's in all the way. It's nice. Then, don't really need thread lock this time. But I'm gonna do it anyway. Some ultimate racing. Thread lock on the threads. We don't want to lose this in a semi-final. Thread lock works fine on aluminium. I like it dry. I like it dry with a bit of thread lock. And then remember, when you tighten these, you have to make a face, so it's definitely tight. Okay, that's good. Then, this part kind of needs a bit of lube. We'll get some Ultimate Racing shock oil. A little bit up. I always did it this way. Put it in the wrong way, make sure everything's seated, lubed up, then put it in the right way. Ooh. Free like America. It's so free. Then, this is a rear shock. It's so free. Jesus Christ. Americans really would love my shocks. Of course, I'm trying to show you something and then I have no shims. Okay, here we go. On the rear shocks, I always run a rear hub shim. One, you can run always. Two, most of the time. We're just gonna put one on there for now. The reason we do this is we limit up travel. When you limit up travel, you have more corner speed. So there we go. New O-rings, new bushings. We have a rear hub shim on the shaft to limit up travel. Shocks free like America. Time for some Ultimate Racing shock oil. Put some, oh wait. Just want to be safe here. Better safe than sorry. No. Oops. Boom. We got this Yokomo tool. Yep. The nut's tight. Okay. Product placement. Yeah. I support Yokomo. Feels good. It feels really good. Then, let's see, where did I put the cap? Did I lose it? I probably lost it by now. Shit. I forgot to take the bleeder screw out. So now I'm gonna spill all my shock oil, no? It's good. Okay, so professional drivers, they have all kinds of penis enlargement pumps and stuff. Like, I don't bother with that shit, especially with emulsion. Like, you're mixing air and oil. What's the point? Why do you, like, you get all the air out of here just to, you know, anyway have air in it? Like, what's the point? I'm running emulsion, boys. Emulsion is air and oil mixed. Don't need to be pumping some air out of the shocks. Don't need that shit. Okay? So we got some emulsion caps here. Just, put a bit of oil in there. You know, just for health and safety. Okay, let's see if I can still get the cap on. There we go. Got the cap on. Okay, so the cap is on. Insert shaft gently. Leave small gap. Why do you leave a small gap? This is why, because this thing goes there and the shock boot. Okay. Rotate shock body slowly. There we go, you see? Oil is pouring out from there and there. It's a good sign. There we go. Screw, cap, hole, threads. Boom. Wipe. Test. Oh my God. Oh my God. That might be the smoothest shock I've built since the day before yesterday. Okay, because I'm such a pro, it's like pretty much good already. But look, I can tell there's just we got some pressure in there. Did you see that? Did you see that? Like the shock just came out because there's pressure in there, and I want to make it dead. I like my shocks dead. Kind of like I know that joke would have been really rude. So anyway, so you undo the screw. So now, hole, threads, no screw, separate. Insert shaft gently. You see that? It's squirted. Threads, hole, screw, done. Wipe. Test. Woo! Dead. Done. You are done. You have successfully built a perfect shock. But wait, I built it with a flat piston, 7-hole. What if I had put the conical pistons or the MIP ones? They might be even more optimized. If you're just joining us, you're going to have to go back and watch the beginning of this Facebook Live where I explained the difference between the MIP, the flat, and the conical piston, this way or that way. Yeah. So anyway, there you go. It's that simple, folks. It's that easy. JQB 341A, vented shock cap. Okay, I'm tired of wrenching. Let's talk. I'm tired of this wrenching. It's too late for wrenching. We're gonna talk about future design trends and how to be a champ. Okay? Stop with the beers. What do you mean? This is only my second beer. JQB 341A, vented shock cap. This is another one, not the same one as I started with. Okay, so as you know, I've been testing different cars. I have an X-Ray Kyosho associated JQ car over there. And I mean, I've tried other ones too. I've been wondering that what's the future going to look like? Because when I first designed the car, it was kind of a change. Just at that moment before I released my car, the 8-scale market changed. I'm not going to turn the camera sideways during a video. That's really bad. It went because the Losi was released. TLR, narrow car, weight forward, spindle fronts, those 10-scale things. And we kind of went away from the old school, weight more wide, weight further back, more stable, sluggish kind of cars. And now we kind of gone back, like everyone's made wider cars again, but the weight sort of stayed forward. And most cars are pillow ball or C-hub. So I've been wondering, like, what's going to be the next thing. And I think one thing which will go away, I'm pretty sure this will go away at some point, is that wide rear pivots. So the pillow ball cars right now, they have super wide rear pivots on the Mugen and the Associated. I'll show you. So you see the Associated, the ass Associated, the ass is pretty big. Like that's a big ass if you ask me. Like that's a big ass. If you compare with the black edition, I mean, Jesus, woo! That really, I mean, there's a big difference there. The pivot, pretty narrow. Pivot, really wide. I think this is something that is gonna go away in the future. The reason is that the narrow pivot is just so much more consistent and stable, more grip, easier to drive. And I think it's something that's gonna go away because you sort of need to adjust it track to track. It gives you this sense of like, wow, the car is so fast, because it does give you corner speed, and it is very fast. It does make the car fast, but it also makes it to where it has a narrower window of working. And because of that, if you stay within that window on one track, then you go to a different track, different conditions, maybe it goes outside that. And then you have to readjust your car or your driving. And even when it's good, in certain situations, it will sort of, the car will go outside that window, and then you have to save it, recover, you make a mistake. Like, it's just, I don't see it ever working as well as a narrower pivot. So what's going to happen is you're going to find that there are going to be cars with narrow pivots that maintain the same corner speed, and you can go fast, but the cars will be easier to drive. And the window within which you can drive and the car works will be wider. So narrower pivot, but wider working window. Wider pivot, narrow window. So I think in the future that's going to change. What else? The pillow ball versus C-hub thing. That's another interesting one. So pillow ball is kind of the trend now. Mugen has always had it. Then Associated made a car. They made a pillow ball, pivot ball. X-Ray, they made both, but everyone's running the pivot ball. Who else? Soar, pivot ball. S-Works, pivot ball. Many of the new cars have that. And I think, does anyone even have the TLR spindle type now? I don't think so. The spindle is kind of gone. It came in, everyone thought it was great. It wasn't, it's gone. Now we're back to C-hub and pillow ball. And I think that in recent years, the trend has been pillow ball, and I think it will swing back to C-hub in the coming years. And the reason is that C-hubs, I think, will be developed more in the future, and there will be different setup options. So you can have a very stable, easy car as a C-hub, or you can have a more sort of pillow ball style feel with a C-hub, and you will have different tuning options for the C-hub cars. The pillow ball cars, you're kind of stuck. You have that one thing, like they just are a certain way and that's it. Initially numb steering, and then you have a lot of steering mid to exit of the corner. Like that's what you're stuck with. You have a lot of on power steering. Off power, sometimes a struggle. You have steering which differs depending on the speed that you're going. So you are stuck with that, and you can't really change that too much with a pivot ball. But with the C-hub you can. You can make it completely different, or you can make it very similar to the pillow ball steering. So I think future cars will trend back to the C-hub for this reason. What's he saying? That one thing is far superior. What one thing? You said earlier wider pivot is better on a higher track. Yeah, to a certain extent. I don't think that super wide pivot is really better on a high grip track, because it's too wide, you know? The mechanical stability of C-hub is projectually superior for sure. What's that word? For example, like the X-ray, it would be possible to have a C-hub car, which most tracks, the C-hub is much easier. Then you go to a very high-speed, bumpy track or high-grip track, and the pillow ball is easier. You can change the C-hub to be easy like the pillow ball without making it a pillow ball. So instead of having a pillow ball struggling a bit on some tracks and then it being awesome on those high-grip, bumpy tracks, you can have a C-hub which is easy in every condition, because you just adjust the C-hub. That's something that's missing now from our cars, but in the future we'll have it. So I think what's going to happen in the future for 8-scale buggies is you're going to have cars that are naturally fast, but the tuning window is wide and they're easy to drive. And they will have different C-hub designs for different conditions, and narrow pivots, long arms for stability. That's what I think. I say superior because you will never get the throw out of a C-hub. Yeah, so the problem, or the limiting factor of a C-hub is this. Throw you can get, that's not really the problem. This is the problem. So when the wheel turns, you see this corner of the arm here. The rim is really close to this, and when you turn the other way, can you see here? Yeah, you see that the inside of the wheel will be very close to this corner here. That's a limiting factor. So you have to imagine the wheel is here. It's going to be very close to this part and that part. On a pillow ball, you don't have that problem, because the wheel will be here on the hub, and the whole hub is turning with the wheel. So that gap to the wheel never changes on a pillow ball. So that's really the only benefit, like packaging benefit of a C-hub. The geometry they have now on these cars, you can do on a pillow ball. The geometry they have now on pillow balls, you can do on a C-hub too. But yeah, that's, I think, what the comment was about. Okay. C-hubs need the insert like Durango did on the 210 to adjust the caster quick and easy. Yeah, I mean, inserts are okay, but then you run into problems again. Like I was just explaining, when you really want to get a certain geometry, there's no extra space. So there's not really space for an insert either. Okay. Yeah, so there you have it. I think the things that are the things that will improve on our 8-scale buggies in the future is that we'll have cars that are naturally faster yet easy to drive. Yeah, that's really what's going to happen. We went from back in the day, like when I started, the cars were, yeah, easy to drive, but they were kind of slow. Then we got really fast cars that are hard to drive. Then it's been improving from then. And now we sort of still are searching. And I think, like in touring cars it's going to become more, like the cars are going to become closer and closer together in design. And that design will be, I think, longer arms, narrow pivots, designs where the car is easy to drive yet fast. And there will still be pivot ball and C-hub, like the Kyosho, Mugen of the old. Okay, next thing, how to be a champion, part 2. The first part was like figure it out for yourself. Just because Testman is running a certain setup doesn't mean that you have to run it. You know, you don't want to be as good or almost as good as Testman. You want to kick his ass. So you want to learn, set up for yourself and do your own thing. You listen to everyone, but you make up your own mind. You'll try things for yourself. You just don't automatically believe what everyone else says, you know? You learn from others, but you make up your own mind. Oh shit, I forgot to block a hole in the piston. I'm gonna show you that too, after this. So, soldering after this. So what could part 2 be? Part 2 could be something I talked about on the No Name RC podcast. So if you aren't following and listening to the podcast, I think you should, because there are especially 2 parts which are really good on the podcast. The first part is the Assault RC, or is it the Beach RC segment now? Like the setup questions and stuff. Keenan, what's it called? The segment. So people ask setup questions and I explain setup. The second is the JQ Racing rant. And it's especially good when we have one of the shit fountains on, because he's just so ridiculous. And it makes it entertaining because he talks so much shit, you know, and we have to, yeah, you just go listen. It's good. Even this week's one with Billy Tylaska. Billy Tylaska is the main guest. After that, we have the rant, and it gets good. It starts off slow, then it gets good. So you should go listen. But anyway, where was I? How to be a champ, not a fanboy. You have to decide to be a champion. That's really what it comes down to. You have to make a decision. How bad do you want to be good at RC? Do you just do this for fun? You go to the track, you do some laps, you talk to friends, and that's what you want? Or do you want to be the next Ryan Mayfield? That you have to make a decision. It doesn't just happen. Like Spencer Rivkin didn't become Spencer Rivkin just by accident, you know? It doesn't work that way, really. So you have to make a decision. Like, do you want to improve? Do you want to be a champion? Okay, let's say you want to be a champion. Okay, good. The first step is making that decision. Then after that, you have to work at it. You have to have a plan. You have to make some sacrifices. You have to decide that I'm going to go to the track as often as I can. Maybe that's 3 times a week, 4 times a week, 5 times a week. That's what you have to do. Maybe you don't go out and party. Maybe you don't have another hobby. I don't know what you don't do, but you need to sacrifice some other things so you have more time to go to the track. But then it's not only that. Most people, even if they have a lot of time and they spend a lot of time at the track, when I'm at the track, I see 2 main mistakes that people make. And these mistakes hold otherwise talented and skilled people back. They could be even better than they are if they did these 2 things differently. One thing which is especially common in America is, I don't know why, but they go to the track and they just work on their car too much. Like, it doesn't matter if you polish your shock shafts or you have this bling screw set on, or you, like, everything's clean and you shorten your servo leads and all that bullshit. You know, I've talked about this before. You know, all that stuff, it doesn't really matter, you know. How good your pit setup looks with everything lined up and your tools lined up and your LV wallet and your speaker system and your special water canister and all of that stuff, like dusting off your charger. It doesn't matter, really. You need to focus on your car is functioning, okay? Head to the track, do laps. Okay, so less wrenching and polishing, more laps. That's number one. Number two, when you do laps, don't just do laps. That's the other mistake people do. They say, oh, I spent all day at the track and I drove so much. Yes, so what? After you know how to drive, it doesn't help you anymore. Just going to the track to drive and do laps is not going to help you. You're not going to improve enough. The progress is too slow. You need to have a plan. So this is what I would suggest. Try to do 5-minute runs. I time it on my radio. Is my radio here? Look at this gypsy thing. I need a new one. So on the Sanwa, there's this button here. So I can program this to be the timer. So when I'm driving, I drive down the straight, I click a lap. When I'm like, if it's a front straight, when I pass myself on the front straight, I click a lap. If it's a back straight, I pass myself on the straight, I click a lap. I do 5-minute runs. The reason you should do that is it makes you concentrate in a whole different way. When you're just practicing, if you're just driving, it's kind of, you aren't really concentrating, focusing, you're just like whatever, driving. When you are doing a 5-minute run and you're timing it, you will focus in a different way. Especially if you're like me, like I can trick myself into being competitive against myself. Like it just works. Like if I know my pace, okay, if I know the pace on that track, like I know Mayfield did 15 laps in 5 minutes and 3 seconds, then I have a goal and I'm chasing that goal. If I don't know it, I set it for myself. So I do some 5-minute runs and then I kind of figure out where I'm at. And then I work out that I did a 15, I need to do a 7 or a 10. And then that's my goal. And when I have a goal, when I go to drive and I drive a 5-minute time, I focus in a different way. And if I make a mistake, it pisses me off because I'm so set on achieving my goal. And that's important because that will help you practice in a whole different way. When you set a goal for yourself and you try and you're like, I'm not going to go home until I make this, you know? And sometimes you make it, sometimes you don't. And I'm insane enough, like if I don't make it, I'm pissed off. Like we're talking about practice here, but it pisses me off. And then if I make it, I'm happy, like, yeah, man, I made it. So that really helps when you do that. So you do 5-minute times, you figure out what your speed is, you set a goal, and you try and achieve that goal. And what this also does, it makes it possible for you to learn about the car and about driving. You can focus on a certain aspect of your driving, for example, and see how that affects your lap times and your 5-minute time. So for example, you can focus on slowing down earlier, like consciously deciding, I am going to slow down earlier and try and maintain my speed through the corners, flow through the corners. So you haven't changed the car, you didn't polish your shock shafts, you didn't change your screw kit, you did none of those things. You're not running a plastic pinion. You didn't order Lunsford titanium turnbuckles. You did nothing like that. The only thing you did was you consciously looked at the track and decided, I'm going to slow down a bit earlier and try and maintain my speed through the corner and keep a tight line, okay? And you see what happens. Maybe your lap times improve. Maybe you improve your 5-minute time. Then you go back to the pits and you're feeling good about it. Like, holy shit, I just thought about what I was doing. I slowed down earlier, maintained my speed, and I went 5 seconds faster over 5 minutes. That's 1 second a minute. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot. In a race, in qualifying, that's a lot of positions right there. Okay, so you can learn about driving when you do it this way. Second thing you can learn, car setup. So we were talking about MIP pistons, stock pistons, conical pistons. When you practice this way, you can actually tell the difference more reliably than if you just throw it in your car and go do some laps. If you throw the MIP pistons in your car, do some laps, maybe you think like, oh, these are awesome, I have more traction and more forward bite, I'm always going to run these. You aren't going to necessarily notice what I explained, that they aren't better in all conditions, they are better in certain conditions, and even then, not on every section of the track. They're better on, they jump more, they're better in low speed bumps, more forward bite, but high speed sections, they're more unstable. Because when you are focusing on your driving and doing your 5-minute times, you're also more in tune with the car. You can start to feel your car, what's happening, and you'll notice small changes more. So when you change something on the car, you can notice the differences, and also you can tell them or you can see what it does to the lap times and the 5-minute time. So you start making setup changes and noting them down in a book. That's the best way. Phone, you can do that too, but they just get lost. Have a physical book. It's the best way. And this way you learn about driving and you learn about your car and your setup. And that, my friends, is how to be a champion, not a fanboy. Part 2. Okay. So now we had this piston thing. So we want to run, we don't want to run these 8-hole pistons. We want to run 7-hole pistons. But Ultimate Racing conical pistons are 8-hole ones. So what are we going to do? We need to block a hole. Okay. Back to the work area. Grandfather pliers, someone was asking. Okay, let's see how we can mess this up now. Okay. Stay. Where you at? You see what I'm doing here? Boom. Okay, so these are trickier to do than the flat ones. The reason is that on the conical side, it doesn't really focus. The hole is really close to the edge. So you need to be very careful here. You don't want to mess up the edge. You don't want to melt the piston so much that the edge is going to be affected. Okay? This soldering iron is great. It heats up in seconds, literally. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the easier side. And I'm just going to, oh my God, I'm just going to barely touch it and start pushing the plastic over the hole, into the hole. So you see that? I covered it from one side. And I made sure to stay away from the edge. Okay? Now we have to be, now this is getting tricky. You know why? Because we have to make sure to cover the same hole from the other side. Okay? That would be really embarrassing if I did a different hole on the other side. So, this hole right here, I'm gonna try and cover this, and I don't want to mess up the edge either. Let's see if I can manage to do this. I'm just pushing the plastic into the hole here. Yeah, man. So the other side was here. Melting the plastic into the hole. Boom! It's that easy. Done. And I can feel that I didn't mess the edge up. The edge is smooth, it looks smooth. And now we have a 7-hole piston. It's that easy, folks. Please post a close-up photo of the soldered piston. I mean, this is really demanding. Okay, I'll do that just for you. That plastic burns the eyeballs. Didn't burn my eyeballs. Kind of like how those e-buggies haven't paid my bills that Keenan always talks about. Okay, close up. Let's see if it will focus. Focusing on my hat. Focus there, you dumbass. Brosef, where can I buy a team shirt? What kind of team shirt? Message me and check on eu.jqracing.com. There you can see what we have in stock, and then message me on Facebook. More team shirts on, I don't know. That evenly spaced holes, that doesn't really matter. I have never noticed a difference with the hole spacing being different. When are you going to build the truggy? You know what? I don't know. Okay, is that it? Are we done? Was there something else we needed to cover? A smooth shock. It's just so amazing. I have a bit of a shock fetish. Your mum sucks, Liam. My internet's fine. So, pretty much for the whole Facebook Live, we had over 100 people, 130 people. That's amazing. That's more than some world champions have. We're losing connection. That's a sign. It's a signal. It's a sign from the man above that we're done. So go to jqracing.com, buy some retro shirts, buy some JQ threads. Buggy. Sign up for RCGP. Saxton just signed up today. Richard Saxton. He thinks he can take out the 40-plus champ. Cheeky.